Okay, and why this is so that is important for us to understand, and I'll come back to this. But you know, let's take the elements one by one. But before doing so, let me also elaborate upon that why these are understood as prakritis, right? Why these are understood as anga or organs. See, primarily we are looking at the seven elements, seven prakritis, and most of the ancient Indian thinkers, they believed in the organic view of the state. Now, what the organic view of the state is? This means that as far as the state is concerned, a state would be composed of different elements in a similar manner to what we understand by the composition of a body which is made of different organs. So different organs, the way they make the body or the way they make a particular species, similarly these seven elements they would make the state. Right now, this has its implications in terms of understanding the nature of a state. Right, what happens when we are emphasizing that a body is made of different organs, meaning that all these organs, they are required to be related to each other in a way that each performs its function, and at the same time each is connected to each other, that one supplements and complements at the same time the functions of the other. Okay, so every organ has its specific task, its specific function which it does to keep the body going, to keep the body healthy, right? So the interdependence of different organs in terms of their existence and functioning both is what is important when we are trying to understand that how a body may exist. So once the organs they start malfunctioning, or once the organs they start functioning in a way which would not be healthy, then the overall functioning of the body would be affected, and it would be very much difficult for the body or the species to exist at all. So the very existence of the body or the very existence of a particular species is dependent upon the factor that the organs they are not only interdependent and interrelated, but they function in a way that they would make the overall functioning of the body possible, right? That's what is the relationship when we are trying to understand the organs of the estate or the elements of the estate, meaning that all these elements they have a specific function, but they are interdependent, and they function in a way that ये प्रकृति है, हाँ प्रकृति, हाँ प्रकृति है, हाँ राइट। अनुगुंज, हाँ अनुगुंज, वो आपने सही बताया है, वो प्रकृति ही है। ओके ओके, राइट राइट, हाँ ओके, प्रकृति ही है, प्रकृति मतलब जो नेचर है, नेचर है जिसको आप समझते हैं, हाँ मतलब एक जो बेसिक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स बेसिक ट्रेट्स होता है आपका, उसको यहाँ पे रेफर किया जा रहा है। Okay, now similarly, when one is trying to look at the state, right? A state can function in a normal and healthy manner only when its different elements they do not exist, but they exist in an interdependent way and in a manner where each supplements and complements the functioning of the other without interfering in the act of the other, right? So each one has its specific function, right? Number one. Number two, when we say the organic view of the state, or when we say that state is comparable to an organ, we also mean that there would be a kind of hierarchy which would exist, is it not? When we say a body, right, or when we say for instance human body, take that as an example, right? Now in human body, do you think that there is no hierarchy, and each organ functions independent of the other. Is it is not so, right? Every organ has its relationship. They are not only interdependent, but there is also a hierarchy, meaning that it is the mind which tells other organs of your body that what to do, is it not? So if you look at that way, then mind becomes something which acquires a higher place in terms of understanding the relationship of various organs of your body, right? So similar thing possibly would be applicable in the case of a state, right? Wherein we would understand that as far as the state is concerned, a state may be composed of 7 different organs and elements, and each organ and element or prakriti, right, may be important in itself, and it is important for the state to ensure its existence, but there would be some element which would be superior to or which would be more important than other elements, right? Now again, let me compare with the human body, and connect it a bit, right? Connect it a bit. uh, See, as far as your body is concerned, right, each part has its own specific function, right? So the hands, they have their own function, the feet, they have their own function, right? So and each individual organs, I'm not going at the level of the cells, but each individual organ that exists in the body, together they compose a kind of system in the sense that you have a respiratory system, or you have digestive system, right? And all these systems together, when they exist in the human body, only then functioning of the body in a normal way becomes possible, right? So if hands, they do not work, or they do not work properly, then your body cannot work properly. Your eyes, right, if they do not work properly, then it would be difficult for your body to work properly. You cannot see. I mean, your body can exist, but certainly it is not a normal or healthy body, right? So that is what I think the earlier thinkers, they had in mind, that when one is trying to look at the state, each element in the state is important primarily because it would contribute its act, right, for the existence of the state, but at the same time the elements or the organs, they are required to exist in a manner where they overall would make the existence of the state possible, right? And the most important organ in Kautilya's understanding, and also also if you look at some of the literature before Kautilya, like Manu, for instance. Manu we have not discussed, we will come to that. So in Kautilya's view, the king becomes the most important element in the state. In fact, he symbolizes the state. And in his understanding, the state's nature can be understood by looking at the kind of king that a state has. So that is where the state reflects the overall nature of a state, right? So the king's uh, what part do you want me to repeat? कौन ये जो अभी हाँ हाँ, ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है, हाँ ठीक है। जो पॉइंट हम आपको बताने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि अगर आप देखें जो एलिमेंट्स ऑफ स्टेट है, उसमें किंग को सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंस दिया गया है कौटिल्य के द्वारा, राइट? उसमें हमने फर्दर कहा कि अगर हम कौटिल्य के व्यूज़ को देखें, तो कौटल्या का ये मानना था कि किंग जो है वो सॉवरेनिटी का सिंबल है। स्टेट जो है वो कहीं ना कहीं एक इसका जो हम रिफ्लेक्शन देखते हैं वो किंग में देखते हैं, राइट। So the point I was trying to underline that according to Kautalya, the nature of the state would be what the king would make, right? Meaning that, as far as the state is concerned, as far as the nature of the state is concerned, as far as the character of the state is concerned, right? All these things would depend upon the kind of king that a state has. Okay, so the king in Kautilya's understanding becomes the most important element of the state. So he not only symbolizes the sovereignty of the state, but the king is capable of making or unmaking the state. So if the king is capable, he can turn a weak state strong. And if the king, if he is not capable, then even a strong state can perish, right? Can be destroyed. So that is why the importance of king is more than any other element in Kautilya's understanding. Now, it's not that, who's this? हाँ हाँ बताइए। Okay, okay. Yeah, definitely. No, we will come to that when we will discuss the eighth element. The eighth element that I have that I have already mentioned, right? That is enemy or shatru. We will understand the C. But just to answer your question very briefly, it has to do with the kind of overall relationship of one state with other that Kautilya was looking at, and it is in that context that is considers the earth element becomes important when we are trying to understand this state.